before too with Miss Alice Butler-Short. How about you introduce yourself, please?
Okay. I'll try to make it short. My husband likes to say I came the long way from Tipperary, because that's where I was born in Ireland. But before I came here, I lived in London, England. I lived in Hong Kong for 13 years. I lived in Canada for 7. And then 37 years ago, I came here and married my husband. And with him, I was in Singapore for 4 years when he was the attaché, the army attaché to Singapore. And we were in Somalia for 2 years when he was the U.S. military mission chief there. I have 3 sons. One is a federal agent, and one is an active duty colonel, and one is Brian Butler-Ow, who is quite a famous manager for UFC champions.
So you're a superstar. You guys are of superstar lineage, apparently.
No. Let's just say perhaps I did some things right. They're all very successful. Yeah. They're Republicans and they're Christians. So, and I have 7 grandchildren. So how much more could I ask for?
Well, I like to think. I think I'm doing well, but now I just talked to you for 1 minute and 27 seconds, and I'm like, man, I got a lot to do.
So that's kind of the family background for me. Mm-hmm. Since I've been retired, I've been I was always involved in helping others and doing whatever good I could in the world. I think that's part of our purpose here. And I became involved in politics, but never ever to the extent that I have been involved with President Trump. When 5 years ago, I started Virginia Women for Trump. Mm-hmm. And 3 purposes: to debunk the media myths that women didn't like him, bring women of all ethnic backgrounds together, and merge our spirituality with our politics, which I think is so essential if we are to remain one nation under God.
That's beautiful.
So, yes.
We spoke on the phone the other about a week ago, a little over a week ago, and I mean we both kind of voiced the same concern. And it's I was just listening to a comedian who's my favorite comedian ever, Tim Dillon, who's the most politically incorrect, not family friendly, but he's the funniest person you'll ever listen to in your life.
Tim Dillon.
Tim Dillon, Dillon.
Irish too. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's he always goes into.
Looking up.
Yeah, he's insane. But he had a good point. I was just listening to him before this, and he was talking about how certain things you just cannot talk about. And the one thing that makes me think of our conversation the other week was election fraud, and it's very unique because although the episode I was listening to of him was from several months ago, but the concept or the idea remains the same. And it's that he's 36, I'm 30. So, I mean, roughly, kind of the same age. I have, older brother. So it kind of feels like grew up in the same kind of Irish Catholic family. He, New York, me, New Hampshire. So it's like, I relate to a lot. And, but he said, do you remember growing up and, the priests or like my, Irish Catholic mother? Don't you dare listen to Marilyn Manson. Don't you dare watch Jackass. Don't listen to, Blink-182. Don't watch the X Games. It was all these things that they were so sure were going to turn us into little demons. And there's a draw to it. You're little and you're like, who's this guy, Johnny Knoxville? And they're riding skateboards.
I come from the days when Bill Haley and Elvis Presley were they were way out there. evil, right? And not really, but just, she gone a little crazy, that type of...
Yeah. But the concept remains the same, right? The establishment and or the parenting units are, Elvis Presley, rock and roll, or those Beatles talking about love, or, it's all me growing up. It's Marilyn Manson. He was like, isn't it weird now how the things that are now the Elvises, the Marilyn Mansons, they're people like Ben Shapiro or Jordan Peterson. These tiny little, you could knock them over with one fist, these pint-sized guys talking about conservatism. Those are the new don't you dare listen to them. They are destroying your life.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that kind of surprises me, but of course my entire family is conservative. They're not perhaps into it as much as I am, but I am so thrilled because I have a 20-year-old grandson, and he came to the rally with me downtown, and he's very much into it. So I'm happy about that because we can have conversations. But I would never. I think it's only if you have a liberal parent that you would think that Ben Shapiro and these people were people you shouldn't listen to. But if those liberal parents took a little time just to really listen, they would hear the message. But perhaps they don't want to hear the message.
Yeah, but it's just, to me, it's astonishing it's like, what is the new counterculture? And it's comical is what it is that the new counterculture is this idea of like,
you're a good guy and you're conservative and you like everything that's good.
Yeah, yeah, it's like
of everything that's bad. Yeah. It's like everything that was good is now bad.
Yeah, it's when I was growing up. Yeah, the evil was Marilyn Manson. It was like this guy that dressed like a demon and burned crucifixes.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and again, and it's nothing I agree with, but man, it's a beautiful thing: freedom of speech and freedom of expression. But it's like, we can't allot that. So I said all of that. If you can't tell, this podcast, there is no defined. We just kind of go crazy with it.
Chatting,
So I said all of that to preface election fraud, because now if you talk about election fraud, there are stunning similarities to how big tech, you could say, or just, I guess, big platform even, is that a term? Google, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, kind of the Facebook. If you mention the words election fraud or stealing an election or election rigging, that will now result in instant bans or shadow bans in the exact same way that the CCP controls references to Uyghurs, Tiananmen Square, in Taiwan, to where you can't even say the term anymore.
I know. I mean, just a thought that comes to me now, which is so funny. You know that Mike Lindell came out.
Well, that's what I was going to get to, yeah.
Yeah, and all my friends are saying, well, look what I got. They took it off Facebook and they put this black screen that said it was fact-checked, and it was taken off because of pornographic content.
What? I didn't...
I'll see if I can... screenshot some of that and send it to you. I thought, this is absolutely nuts.
Well, they did that to James O'Keefe of Project Veritas about a month ago. That's why I know you're telling the truth, is because they took down one of his videos because they said it contained pornographic content.
Yeah, Mike Lindell.
The My Pillow guy with the big toothbrush.
The My Pillow guy, yes.
But that's, you read my mind. It's I was leading up to all of that, to our phone call 2 weeks ago about election fraud, and now Mike Lindell's video yet. So today is Saturday, February 6th, 2:10 p.m. Eastern Time, 2021 for all future listeners. Yesterday, Mike Lindell, I haven't watched it yet, as I told you beforehand. I'm not feeling too hot. But he put out a 2 or 3 hour documentary called Absolute Proof, and it's just about, the theft of the election, of the 2020 election. That was scrubbed from, you took my thunder, scrubbed.
Because what it did was it put all of the pieces together, and it showed without a doubt that even without taking into consideration the Dominion servers and the fraud there, that he won the election. Mm-hmm. If you throw away the underage, the dead, the illegal.
Yeah.
I never ever thought. But there's some things that are happening that are almost a little frightening. And I'm digressing now because it comes to my mind. But this is the 60-day stand down that the new Secretary of Defense has ordered the military to stand down for 60 days while they investigate white supremacy in the military. This is like a communist purge.
It is.
So what are they going? Yeah.
It is.
What is it going to do?
That's what it is. Well, to me, the important thing is who's defining white supremacy, because there's always, right? It's when we say we have to, it's like if I come and all last summer, you can go back to any episode, and it's me kind of, talking shit about, excuse my French, Antifa. And someone goes, oh, you're against Antifa? Antifa stands for anti-fascist. So are you a fascist? Well, you can't just label things that, right? I mean, Hitler called killing the Jews cultural hygiene. Are you against hygiene? It's, so it's on Reddit, which is got a $300 million investment from the corporation Tencent. And Tencent is owned by the CCP. So Reddit is owned by the CCP. That's not an opinion. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a disclosed fact. Mm-hmm. They have a bot. So I've been permanently banned from Reddit. But whenever I would post anything on Reddit critical of the CCP, even as a passing joke, you would get this automatic reply from the AEO bot, the Anti-Evil Operations bot. And, well, why would I want, if I ever tried to question it, it would be like, well, you're questioning the Anti-Evil Operations? What are you, evil? So that's what I have to look at, is like, well, I'm like, who's defining evil? Who's defining Antifa? Who's defining white supremacy? What is white supremacy? Am I a white supremacist because I'm a white guy with blue eyes? I'm an Irish Catholic with an American flag.
Instead of apologizing, you're born with this color skin. I mean, what are we going to do about it? I mean, I would like a nice tan, to be quite honest.
So would I.
I've worked years out and ruined my skin trying to get...
So did I. I went one summer trying to get tan, and I'm sure that's the summer that's going to kill me from skin cancer. Hey, I'm with you. It's it's not a great look, but
it's the ploy that they use. How do we divide people? Mm-hmm. And it's every election they bring it up. Racism. It's gone beyond the pale now, with this Taliba and Ilhan Omar. And I think, that little girl, I'd love to smack her because she was growing up in Somalia when I lived there, and she should be kissing the ground here in the United States. In gratitude that she's here and she has her freedom. And let me tell you this, she didn't have to wear her hijab at that time in Somalia. Women were not running around with hijabs. There was the pictures on my wall here. They wore a sort of a sarong, right? They covered their legs. That was it. So she belongs to the generation that perhaps became a little radicalized when the war came to Somalia. We left the end of '88, and it was just coming south. And so she got caught up in that. Lucky for her, she and her father got to a refugee camp in Kenya, then got to the land of the free and the home of the brave. And what is she doing? She's doing her best to make it, the land of the oppressed and the land of the fear.
Yeah. No, it's exactly what it is. You flee these areas, and then you come to a new place and try to turn it into the area you just left. They just passed something, was it the Senate Judiciary Committee? Or they, as of yesterday, or maybe 2 days, I think it was yesterday, to no longer recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, but so the point is so I want to circle back to what you said about the communist takeover, because it is the exact. I mean, is it Khrushchev? We will take over the United States without firing a shot. I think it was Gorbachev. The communism will come to the United States, but the flag will be raised from within. This is how communism works.
Although Gorbachev, I always viewed him as, I viewed him as one of the good guys.
Yeah.
Because he was had such a great relationship with President Reagan, and really made changes in the now Russia, and would have done more had President Reagan had 8 more years.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he was very, very disappointed in the fact that George H.W. Bush did not move forward with him and help him with the help that he felt he needed to really bring about a democracy in Russia.
Yeah, with what were the term glasnost and perestroika.
He was making great strides. He opened up the churches. Did you know that he gave state funerals to the czars and those people who had been murdered? Yeah,
I don't know that.
Yeah,
of Nicholas.
I don't know the names, but when I was there, I learned that he brought them back, gave them state funerals.
The murders from like 1917. Yeah, Tsar Nicholas and his whole family. I didn't know that. That's an interesting fact. But yeah, is so a communist purge, a communist takeover. To me, it's so utterly apparent that that's what happened. And so my question is this, and not that you know the answer, I guess it's the $1 trillion answer, is does the military and the military intelligence complex with 17 or I think 18 now at the Space Force intelligence agencies who have their finger on everything and can read your emails from 1999, did they watch this whole thing go through? Because mind you, election interference, like let's not make any bones about it. We do that all the time, and we've been doing it for decades, since Eisenhower. Mm-hmm. So we know how it's done.
Yeah.
So with our all-pervasive technology, satellite feeds, the NSA, just hyper-advanced monitoring, dragnet surveillance, right? Edward Snowden, X-Keyscore, Echelon, Stellar Winds, they pick up everything. And then also with us just having the blueprint, because we kind of invented this, how to do it to other nations. To me, it brings up this. It's something where it doesn't click, right? It's. But
I think that people have said to me, why doesn't the military do something? I mean, we have to understand that the military does they do what they are told.
Yeah.
They follow the orders from the commander in chief. Doesn't matter what he says. They said send 30,000 people to for the inauguration, the fake inauguration, whatever you like to call it, in Washington D.C. to protect nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, I was down there a few days ago, and there's this wall with barbed wire all around the Capitol, and these poor guys standing inside inside in the freezing cold, trying to keep warm. There's nothing to guard against. There is no danger. There's nothing. It's all a charade. So the military takes its orders from the commander in chief, and unless we're going to have a military coup, which I doubt would ever happen, that's it. I mean, this civilian comes in now, and he decides that the military is still premises. So he says, stand down for 60 days. We're going to have this big investigation. They found an email that had MAGA on it or something like that. And it's like the world has gone crazy. I could have imagined waking up in Somalia and even Singapore, wonderful place, but, soft dictatorship. I could have imagined waking up anywhere in the world, in any of the 7 countries I've lived in, or 6 other than here, and have this happen, but not here in the United States. I mean, we have always felt that we have our Constitution and we have our constitutional rights, and we're just okay, but we're not, because we have been stripped of them, and they've weaponized COVID.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. And you will. So I say that. What does that mean? She's a little wacko.
You're a white supremacist. That's what it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Stay away from those vaccines. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, now she's even worse. Mm-hmm. So, we don't have the right to an opinion. They bring people out to prove that our opinions are irrelevant or are incorrect. But when it comes to back to COVID and vaccines and everything, there are as many experts who will tell you the opposite of what they are telling us. And it's the whole. When they said shut down for 2 weeks, I said, it's not going to stop there.
No, it never does. You can't.
Yeah. You can. But President Trump was backed into a corner because then if 10 people died, it would have been on the blood would have been on his head. They've used every tool they possibly could. But I still believe that we're going to be okay. Because guess what? President Trump hasn't gone away. He's quiet. But the lion, when he crouches, is planning something, right?
I love it.
So we're going to be. He's going to come back in some way. They don't dispute that 74 million voted for him. We know it was probably more likely 84, 90 million. Those people are still in this country. Mm-hmm. Right now, everybody's just, what do we do? Where do we go from here? And I just say, look, be patient. Mm-hmm. Let this play out for a little longer. Mm. But great believer in Romans 8:28, all things work together for good. And out of this terrible dilemma, God will bring something good.
I truly believe that.
Yeah. I don't know when it will happen, but it depends on us, depends on you, and it depends on me.
Yeah.
And if we're down in the weeds, bemoaning of it to some extent, we'll get nowhere. We got to rise above it. We got to function, I like to say, at a higher frequency, mm-hmm. right? Because the darkness is here.
Yes,
the light is here, right?
Yeah.
So stay up there. Get off the sofa. Do something.
Yes.
Stop reading every conspiracy theory that comes.
It'll drive you insane, and I know firsthand.
Yeah. And I have some very good friends, and you might say in high places. So people say to me, "Oh, what are you learning else?" I said, "Absolutely nothing." Because you can guess what? Nobody. If somebody like my husband, when he was working, if you have a top secret clearance,
you're not
going to be telling anyone anything.
Yeah.
So if you're out there dropping little stuff, then you're just a blowhard, nothing else.
Yeah. Right.
No. So all of these people out there saying, "Oh, I know somebody high up in intelligence," they're not going to tell you anything if they're anybody. You're talking to some low-level person who knows nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to tell you anything. I have guys on here all the time with TS/SCI clearances, top secret, secure, compartmentalized information. I always try to, when we're not recording, when I'm on the phone, I'm like, "Hey, can you tell me about this, that, and the other thing?" It's not even that they just say, "No, I can't tell you." They just deny that whatever I'm saying even exists. They're like, "Oh, I have no idea," because that's the poker face they have to have.
Exactly. So I think those who think they have taken over have not taken over. We still have the elections in 2022 will be. That would be really, really significant, because at least when I don't say if, when we take back the majority, we'll stop them in their tracks.
So my concern with that, and this is what I voiced to you on the phone, was I'm like you. I'm normally someone that, like, no matter what, I'm like, where's the silver lining? There is no benefit in being negative. There's none.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost been 7 years since I lost my older brother to suicide. There's no point in dwelling on, that was terrible, what could I have done, how can I have fixed it, it's evil, the world sucks, there is no benefit in that. I only try to, and my brothers say the same thing when we talk, we only look at, okay, what did it teach me? It taught me that life is short. It taught me to go take risks. It taught me to not, wait until the right time, because the right time might not come. I only look at the positives, because there is no benefit. And I'm not saying be ignorant of, like, realities, but there's no benefit in focusing on that. So
it's like I used to say to my boys growing up. I had a saying, okay, they'd come to me with a problem. I'd say, okay, now you've told me the problem. Let's focus on the solution.
Yes, because there's no point in just, it's
well, my first thing would be, is this life-threatening?
Is this life-threatening?
No. Okay, all right.
Is it time-sensitive? Is it life-threatening? Is it time-sensitive?
Yeah.
Are you going to jail? None of those? Okay, we're good. But so I say all that to say, there is something that maybe I've met my match. Maybe it's a silver bullet that's destroyed my optimism. But it's one thing if, hey, your candidate doesn't always win. Sometimes you lose, right? Tomorrow's the Super Bowl. Someone's not going to win, and it's going to suck. And oh, it was rigged. It was, hey, but sometimes you just got to go, hey, let's prepare for the 2021 season. Let's get better. With this, it's very difficult for me to just go, hey, let's come back in 2022.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. You see, we did this,
because it was rigged. Is the actual system rigged?
I worked to try to get Romney elected. And the night before the election, I was at a rally at the George Mason University. And, I mean, we were all hyped up because, we thought he was moving into the White House. And, of course, he was the perfect candidate except for putting the dog on the top of the car or whatever he did. That's small stuff today, right? And of course now I do not. I have absolutely no respect for the man. But when he lost, we were kind of in the fetal position for about a week, thinking, "Oh my gosh, how could this have happened?" And but you move on. But it's never been. The country has never been in such danger as it is today. It's never been in such danger of and we use the word communist, and that makes they'd like us to say socialism. No, socialism. We used to talk about creeping socialism, right? Well, with Obama, it became galloping socialism, and now we really are into communism with the
censorship. Mass censorship.
The censorship, the shutting up, I had, and stop me if I'm veering off, but
whatever.
Wrong direction, but I had an event at the Supreme Court, outside the Supreme Court on January 5th. And it was wonderful. I had Roger Stone, I had Steve Moore, I had Alex Jones, and I had a whole lot of, very, very wonderful women from all over the nation. I started these Women for Trump groups, not just Women for Trump, because that was just something up there, send out emails and they have a bus or whatever. What the hell did they do? Nothing, We were the boots on the ground people, and they loved the identification with their own state. And the campaign actually tried to push back on us because they just wanted Women for Trump up here. But people loved having, never could find anyone in New Hampshire, but Connecticut women, Michigan women, Virginia women, Alabama women, Colorado women, California women, and they all loved having that identity with their own state. And so anyway, they were there, and the whole theme of it was more like a prayer rally, one nation under God. And so we had great speakers, we prayed, we sang hymns, and it was fantastic. I had 3 guys from California. They run the American Phoenix Project. And I had met one of them, and he said, "Oh, we'd love to come, kind of East meets West, take part in this." They came. Grassroots organizations like mine don't fundraise. We don't have money, so they got a donor to pay for the microphone, which was fantastic. Well, 2 of them gave speeches, and if you were on the left and looking for a problem, you would say, "Oh, that was incendiary. They talked about fighting to the death," But that's speaking metaphorically, right? That's what we all do. We're never going to give up. Blood on the streets. But does that mean we're going to go out there with machetes and whip everyone up? No. So anyway, 6:02 a.m. at about 8 or 9 days ago, 100 agents arrived at his house, 30 in full tactical in one house, 30 in full tactical gear, battering rams, broke down, took every door in the house off the hinges. This is a 5,000 square foot house. 3 little kids, 6, 3, and 6 months old. Even broke through the door where the 6-month-old was sleeping. Set off, do you call them flame bombs?
Flashbang.
Whatever. Yes.
Flashbang.
Yeah. I mean, really loud. Blew out every window in the house. Held the dad outside the front door in handcuffs, in his flip-flops, for 2 hours before they gave him a search warrant. All as a result of complaint from liberal neighbors who knew he was a passionate Trump guy. So they took away 2 computers, all his phones, and all his Trump gear, including the big hat that he loved. Well, no charges. Because there is nothing. There was nothing.
Well,
yeah, you're astounded.
Wait, what is? So what? So who called? They called and said he's a Trump supporter.
Yeah. Yes, if your neighbor, if you're on a funnier level, I have neighbors up the street, and they after January 6th. Wrote a letter, and so this just requires a yes or a no answer. Do you approve of the insurrection that your president incited yesterday? And I thought, a lot of things I wanted to say. I held back the Irish in me, and I didn't respond. But back to California, so that's all that I have suffered. In I had the Trump 2020 magnets on my front door, double door out there, and I kept them up until 2 days ago, until I kept getting repetitive letters from the Homeowners Association. You couldn't see them from the road, but it's my neighbor. This is the stupidity. But what happened to Ross is much worse, and that was because of neighbors. And those neighbors were outside cheering on, saying, "We don't want Nazis in the neighborhood," when this was all going down. Simultaneously, Dale was on the highway. The other guy, who was a former Marine, in the police officer for 25 years, former police chief, 6 SUVs surrounded him. And they said, well, you know the drill, because they knew his background. Even took the belt off his jeans and made him wear a mask and kept him there for 2 hours while they took his vehicle apart. No charges. Just because this is neighbors. This is what happens in communism.
Yeah.
Neighbor against neighbor.
This is exactly what happens in communism. We don't want Nazis in the neighborhood. The exact thing Nazis did. We're informed.
Yeah. Remind me to send you that article. It's out.
Please do.
I was actually interviewed by the reporter, so my name's in the article, and I think, oh my God.
Good. So don't bend over to them. Because there's no.
They're welcome to come and talk to me, but please don't come in and destroy my house.
Yeah. No, don't bend over to them. Don't, because it never. There is no winning that way. The idea, if we give in, if we just, if we just.
But then you see that this could turn you against, like, say, the FBI. But these guys, they were given a story by those neighbors that led them to believe that there was this very dangerous domestic terrorist living in that house. So that's what they came for. But I think they could have taken it a little cooler. They didn't have to. You
don't have to agree with your neighbor, man. Yeah. If my neighbor is pro Biden or pro AOC, like, hey, great, agree to disagree.
Right.
It's fine. Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah, I took my 2 decals off the front door, and I said, you know what? I think I'll go out and buy 6 Biden signs and stick them out there and see what happens.
Yeah, right. Hide behind.
Probably nothing.
Shit, hide behind their image. Maybe I should just start openly supporting Biden and then just going on with everything I say. Hide behind there. So the odd, and that's what's terrifying to me, is Mike Lindell yesterday was apparently brought away. I didn't know. I always thought Mike Lindell was worth like a couple million. I looked up. I didn't know he was worth $300 million. That's awesome. But as a side note is,
I know him well, and he is a wonderful guy.
You know him well?
Yes, I know him well, and he will be coming to speak at the for the. This would have been the 5th annual, but it'll be the 4th annual because we missed last year because of COVID. But the 5th annual birthday celebration for President Trump at the Trump International Hotel in June. It will be on June 13. Fingers crossed that masks will be off and doors will be open. And it's been an amazing event. We filled the presidential ballroom with about over 900, mostly women. We do allow some men, but it's mostly women, and they wear, it's afternoon tea, so they wear their hats and dress up. It's a fun time. I always bring in really, really good speakers and some entertainment, and it's just a great. It's a weekend because I get a special rate at the hotel, and all these women come from all over, and so this is part of what I do and have done with the grassroots. And on a smaller scale, I mean, I've had things at the IHOP and at a Chinese restaurant, but you need to do those things to keep to keep the enthusiasm going and to make the grassroots feel like they have a home, because you have the Republican Party and you have Republican women's clubs, and I'm president of one, but everybody doesn't want to join one of those clubs. And they're just out there. They want to do the work. They want to be engaged, and having a kind of umbrella organization like I have has, I think, been very. I don't know if you've Googled me, but if you have, you've seen a lot.
I have, and I like it all, which is why I'm having you on. This is a one-man show. I don't have to have on. I always tell this to guests. No one tells me which guests I can and can't have. I find all of them and I have them on. So if you're on here, it's because I want you on here.
Remind me, I have someone you should have on. Her name is Claire Lopez.
Okay.
And I had her for our Republican Women's meeting a couple of weeks ago, and people, because
let me write it down right now.
Claire, Clare Lopez, Lopez, and boy, if you want an education on, I'm sure you know everything, and I did too, but you know how it is when somebody pulls it all together for you and says, starting with this book, and you should read this book, and this book. Of course, we all go back to Saul Alinsky. That's
Rules for Radicals. Yeah.
That they have for it, but she recommends others, and she's so interesting. So I think I'll put you in touch with her, and you should have her on.
Please do. Do you think there's any way you could get Mike Lindell to do 5 minutes?
I could, yeah, I'm sure, but maybe not at this very moment.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'll talk to him.
Please do. That would be amazing.
He's inundated right now.
Well, apparently he received a bunch of death threats yesterday after his documentary and has been whisked to a, quote, secure location.
Yeah. And at some point I'll probably get General Flynn for you.
You could get General Flynn?
Yeah.
Are you pulling my leg?
No, I was talking to him yesterday.
Don't tease me, Alice.
No. I'm kind of part of the family, but I don't flaunt it.
You can't tell. Okay. I need to calm down, collect myself.
I'll more names for you. Steve Moore, the former senior economic advisor to the president.
Steve Moore.
Yeah, maybe Roger Stone.
Roger, you. I feel like I'm gonna wake up any second now. I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna have a text from you like, "Let's get the podcast started." I'm gonna be like, "It was all a dream." I would cry.
I'll give you a list. I'll give you a list.
Please do.
After we speak, yeah.
Okay. Gotta calm down, compose myself.
Yeah. This because there's a great opportunity for you to educate people.
Yes, ma'am.
With all of these people who are really they're on the inside and they're the experts, and they all come from a different sort of perspective.
So I want to show you. I'll have to hold the camera up. So I track on an Excel spreadsheet because I was pre-med. I got into medical school, so I'm very like hyper analytical mind. When I started this podcast on December 12th, 2019, I started manually tracking a lot of parameters: subscribers, views, watch time, impressions, and not just on YouTube, but also on BitChute, Rumble, Spotify, all these different things, just because I don't trust the metrics that they can be manipulated. So I take the metrics, for instance, YouTube says I get every day. I can go in, I can look at what's my total number of views, and I enter that manually. I keep it on my own like external hard drives. Mm-hmm. You can see, I don't know how well it's going to come through, but that's my subscriber count. And you can see where it plateaus is November 3rd, day of the election. It jumps up again because I uploaded a video from January 6th. It jumped up, and then the video was removed, and it plateaued again. But for everybody watching, you can see how 9 months, it took me about 9 months to get to about 600 subscribers. I then started to get a stratospheric rise, started taking off. And then over the next 2 months, I tripled my subscriber count. I was like, it's happening. The podcast is finally paying off. And then you can see November 3rd, horizontal, no new subscribers. January 6th spikes up from that video, horizontal subscribers. And to me, that is because that there is a topic that you can't talk about. Like, look, I get, if you don't like Donald Trump, that's fine. More power to you. Great. That's what's wonderful about this country is you can vote for whoever you like. That's amazing. That's wonderful. If you don't like him, that's fine. If you don't like me, you don't have to watch. That's a beautiful thing. But the very idea that there is a topic that you can't even talk about,
Right. Yes.
That's what terrifies me.
Well, I think that something else comes into play here. That people just became jaded because there were podcasts and videos and everything, people coming in, with all different information, and people just started to tune out and didn't, I get things and I'm not even going to listen to that, right? So maybe you have to reinvent the wheel just a little bit and start, for instance, when you have Claire, we're going to talk about when communism started in this country. Mm-hmm. And how it evolved. And this person is, has she's former CIA, has an amazing background. And you really need to listen to this.
Yes.
And I guarantee people will say, oh my gosh, who are you going to have next?
Yes.
And so do it, build your viewership that way. I'm sure they'll all think I was very interesting, but...
I've loved this episode enormously. I love having someone on that just not only it's everyone likes to have someone on that they agree with, that's an easy thing, but it's interesting talking to you because you kind of see all the same things I see. These are the creeping socialism to the galloping socialism. It's this insidious, because the thing is these regimes, these ideologies, there's a reason why they take time to be put in place, and it's because they're so evil and insidious to human nature. There's a reason why between 1920 and between 1900 and 2000, there's over 100 million deaths from communism. All right, that's 16 and a half times the number of people killed in the Holocaust. There's a reason why it takes time to implement those things, because if you just brought them in full stop as they were, there would be an immediate revolution. You have to put them in piece by piece, slowly over decades, because once you're in them, you can't vote them out. You can't vote out a Hitler. Hitler has to be killed because they're surrounding Soviet armies. You can't vote out an imperialist dictator. You have to nuke their cities. You can't vote out a Saddam or a Gaddafi. You have to kill them.
Yeah, but what we're facing in this country is more than getting rid of just one leader, because it is the ideology. Mm-hmm. And the liberal ideology, they use that to get around our Constitution, whereas we as conservatives want to protect our Constitution. And with their ideology, the whole idea of keeping God out of it, we believe in freedom of religion, not freedom from religion, of religion. Go to church, go to the mosque, go to the synagogue, go to the temple, go wherever you like. That is your prerogative. But they want God out of the public square, period. Why? Because then who controls?
Yeah, who is your great power, right?
They control, yes.
Yes.
Then you take down the picture of Jesus Christ or the cross and you put their picture up.
Chairman Mao, yeah.
We've seen it happen all over the world.
Yes.
Especially if you've traveled or lived anywhere else.
Yes.
You know what it's all about. So this is why my push has always been, one nation under God. That doesn't mean that you have to
Judeo-Christian or
the Judeo-Christian values, and okay, you have we have evangelicals, we have Protestants, we have Catholics, but you're not pushing any of it. But there's just one. There's one God. There's one God, and once the respect for God is there, and once you realize and believe that we talk about our God-given rights. Freedom is our God-given right, and we cannot allow anyone to take that from us, and we won't. Yeah. I'm confident it will not happen.
So am I. That's beautiful. It's freedom of religion, and that's the thing is it's whoever you want to praise. That's fine. It's because when you remove that higher power, and I'm not saying that nor am I saying you have to believe in a higher power. If you don't, that's fine too. But the idea that it's not the Judeo-Christian God. It's not the Old Testament God. It's not Yahweh. It's not Christ. It's not Buddha. It's not Allah. Or I should say it's all of them or any of them or whatever you want. But when you remove that, nature abhors a vacuum. You bring in a new power, like we're seeing right now. Again, Tim Dillon.
Nature's God. That's how it's referred to in our, that's how the founding fathers referred to it. Nature's God.
Yeah.
And if we forget that, like President Reagan said, we're a nation gone under. If we're not a nation under God, we're a nation gone under.
Yeah, but I
think that was one of the greatest things he ever said.
I haven't heard that, but that's wonderful. I'd never heard that. That's beautiful. But I mean, we see it right now, right? Again, and the thing about, and I always talk about Tim Dillon on here, is Tim Dillon is a very traditionally liberal guy. And it's funny because I end up quoting him a lot. But he was like, the reality of COVID right now, he's like, this isn't some right-wing conspiracy. He was like, the reality is this, is that they have, by removing your ability to work, they've removed your ability to make money. And thus, you have to wait on a stimulus check. This is socialism. This is communism. Thomas Jefferson, a government powerful enough to give you everything is powerful enough to take everything away. And I think that quote gets interpreted a lot. I used to think of it when I was younger. I was like, oh, a government's strong enough to give you everything is strong enough to take it away. Like they can remove it. It's not that.
And like Margaret Thatcher said, it's equal misery for all.
Yeah, right. The problem with socialism is you run out of other people's money. Mm-hmm. But I now look at the Thomas Jefferson quote as not necessarily that a government big and powerful enough to give you things is big and powerful enough to take it away, but rather, let's say Miss Butler-Short is my mother, and let's say you are giving me an allowance every day. Someone powerful enough to give me an allowance every day, by definition, has the power to just say, I'm not giving it to you today. You're not getting, well, how many times? Well, you're not a mother, but we all of us were mothers now. Okay, you're not getting any allowance this week. Yeah, exactly, right? It's you control that. You're not getting it this week. That is the power. So
I always gave in at the 11th hour.
Yeah. The moms always give in. The dads don't. The dads stone face. But we're seeing that, right? With COVID, you can't work, you can't do this, and they're now taking everything away and they're giving it back. You can fly if you have a vaccine.
Yes, I have the saddest story, and I don't know if you can see it here, but there's a Vietnamese restaurant. I'm very close with the Vietnamese community. I kind of brought them all together for Trump.
By the way, Ms. Short, we can go over an hour, by the way. I just kind of throw that out there beforehand as like a general time for people. We can go over it. It doesn't matter.
I'm fine. You just tell me stop whenever you want.
No. I'm going to stop when you stop. So sorry, continue with the story, the Vietnamese restaurant.
But anyway, he was just so wonderful to us when we wanted to have meetings or dinners that didn't cost too much, because, like I said, we didn't fundraise, so we couldn't fund anything. And his name is Vin. He fled to the jungles from his home during communism. Then he got on a boat. The boat sank. He held on to a piece of wood. He doesn't know how long. All he knows is that he woke up in a hospital in Malaysia, a refugee hospital, and he was burned. Even his hair was burned off. So I said to him last week, I want you to write your story. He said, I can't, it's too sad, but I will tell you. So I'll get more details about that. So then he comes to this country, marries, has 4 children, works like crazy, as all the Asians do, had his restaurant, the American dream, COVID, gone. He was evicted last Sunday. Saddest, one of the saddest days of my life. He has nothing left. Nothing. He couldn't. Once the door is locked, you can't get back in and take anything out. He knew it was coming, but I think his stress level became so high that he couldn't deal with anything other than just walking away. And he said to me, I'm trying to pull his picture up.
Oh, yeah, take your time.
He said to me, he said to me last Saturday, he called me, he said, do you know a church? I let them take everything and maybe they can sell it and help somebody else. Look at this man. He's about to lose everything. And he's talking about helping somebody else. Just incredible. And then as I saw him, went over to see him, and as we talked, he said, we're boat people. We don't look back. What a profound statement, right?
It's insane. I was going to say, Mogadishu, Somalia, we talked about Black Hawk Down in the book.
Oh my gosh. I could never watch that movie. I could not. If I saw the trailer on TV, I had to go to another room. That upset me so much. Much.
It is. It's an upsetting story. A quote from the book of the pilot, Michael J. Durant, who I had on this podcast, episode 95.
Yes.
He wrote a book in the Company of Heroes, which is a completely different style book than Black Hawk Down. It's all about his experience. But the point is, I say all of that to say there was a quote in it where the 2 Delta Force snipers, Randy Schuchart and Gary Gordon, defended him until their deaths. They both received posthumously the Medal of Honor.
Can you see that?
It's your text. I think your text came up.
Okay, my text came up. I had the picture up there.
You're fine. But in the book, so Mike Durant, when he came back to the United States, he spoke to the wives of the fallen snipers, and he had a great quote in it, and it's back to what you said about don't look back. It's when they asked him, like, what were their final moments like. Is that him?
Yeah, can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you see the sadness in his face?
It's brutal.
Brutal. I mean, I look at it now and I cry. I better not cry, but I can cry when I look at it even now. But I have started a GoFundMe for him.
Really?
And it's on Virginia Women for Trump Facebook page, which is a public page. And I'm saying to people, look, $5.
Yeah.
$5 from you, from your friend, from your friend's friend, and your friend's friend. It can increase and multiply. Yeah. And there are tens of thousands like him out there, but let's try to help one.
Yeah, send me the link to the GoFundMe, and I'll post it on here. And,
I will. Yes.
Yeah, and hopefully the people that listen to the podcast can help. I mean, I can afford $5.
I've written the story within the GoFundMe. If they click on it, they will read his story. So that's.
Well, I can like edit like a small clip from this podcast of the story. But that's incredible that he's moving. The quote from I think it was Randy Schuchart's wife. It might have been Gary Gordon's wife, but it was. I explained things in a long roundabout way, but the quote was, "It's okay to look back, just don't stare." And
yes. Oh my gosh! Yes.
Isn't that good?
It is. Yes.
It's okay to look back, but just don't stare.
Yeah.
And it's as I kind of said earlier in more words, it's like how I view the passing of my brother. Like, look back, don't stare. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean forget. That doesn't mean ignore. It's just, hey, I still have I would like to think I still have a lot of life ahead of me, right?
Yeah, and me too. I lost my sister last year, and it's the same thing. You can't, because if you stare, you just really go.
You get sucked in. You get sucked in, and it starts to steal. How I always look at it is like, man, like I know if my brother was here right now, I think he would smack me. If I was like, he'd be like, dude, you're 30, like you have a cool podcast, like don't lose like your current life thinking about me. Like don't if you're at a really cool party, you don't waste time at that party thinking about a party last year. No, you enjoy the party now. You look around and there's beer and wine and there's guys and girls, and it's just like you don't waste that current party thinking about an old party. Right? So yeah,
you have to keep on manifesting your life, your future, whatever you think you want, and that's sort of something that came to me in the midst of all this. I've always believed in, you pray with thanksgiving, so you say thank you God as though you've already received it, but then I replaced the word manifest with thanks, because really when we stay at that God frequency, we can manifest anything.
I like that.
According to His will.
We talked about that on the phone, actually.
Yeah.
Short and I keep forgetting that everyone on the podcast wasn't sitting in on that phone call. We talked about that though, about meditation and kind of the mystic, and you don't see that a lot with current Catholicism or even Christianity, is the whole mystic side of it.
I think they miss the point that Jesus was the greatest mystic who ever walked this earth.
Oh yeah,
because this guy going around, healing the sick, Lazarus rises from the dead, the loaves and fishes, I used to say that actually when I had the 3 boys, because they'd bring all the friends home in
the fish and the bread.
The fish, because we never ran out of food. I was for a time a single parent. My late husband was Chinese, so my boys are half Chinese, handsome hunks. Irish and Chinese, great combination.
Beautiful combination.
Yeah.
But we did talk about that. Is the mystic side of, and that's one thing that kind of dawned on me the last couple of years. Is, at least in my mind, I started to realize, I was like, oh, Jesus was more like Buddha than he was this idea of this like strict, Irish Catholic priest. It was like, no, he was more of that very, it's that right. It's that mystic, spiritual.
Brought up, in the old Catholic way. I mean, there was heaven and hell,
and that's it.
You were working real hard not to go down.
You got one or the other, right? It's there's no pray and mysticism, and there's life and beauty and consciousness in every molecule. It's
you had the act of contrition, but you never heard of the act of perfect contrition?
No.
But that was very Irish. This is way back, because, I'm very old.
Well, I remember the act of contrition. I remember praying every night.
I don't know whether it was invented by one of the nuns who taught me or whatever, but it was the act of, you were to say an act of perfect contrition. And I'd lie in bed at night and I think, now how can I do that? Not that I'd committed any dreadful sin during the day.
Yeah.
And I used to, this is funny, because I used to think, if I can squeeze out a little tear, maybe. God would believe me that this is an act.
I'm sorry. Right? I remember the first...
I would try to force out a cup of tea. I mean, this was in all sincerity, because I wanted to be a good girl.
Yeah.
And, I went into the church every day, and I walked down the cemetery, and I thought, well, I'm good. I might see the Virgin Mary, but...
Yeah.
And that's it.
Right. Yeah. And you start to feel bad. I remember my first confession. I was right. Like, I think it was second grade when we did it. It was before our first communion.
Oh, that's easy. That's easy. You know what I did? We had the examination of conscience. Mm-hmm. Decided it backwards and said I did everything. I covered all the bases.
Well, I remember going in. I think I was in Arkansas at the time. I was at St. Joseph's. Yeah, I think that's the school I was in. I was second grade, so this would have been like 98, maybe 97. And I remember going in, and and the thing is like, I don't think I've done anything wrong, but I was like, I don't want to say nothing. So I remember I just made up a bunch of like petty crimes. I was like, I stole crayons. I stole Legos. Because I was like, I don't want to say nothing, right?
We can laugh about it now, but when I think back,
I'm terrified.
But Catholicism gives such a great foundation to children, and it really gives and the discipline that comes with it is great. So in the end, it really, whether you stay in the church, because you. I'm not a frequent churchgoer, but there's a sanctity in the Catholic Church that you don't find in the Christian churches now, because they all think they want everyone to come. So the pastor's up there in his cut-off jeans and his T-shirt, and there's a rock concert going on. Oh dear Jesus, where am I?
They're trying to appeal. They're trying to appeal to the masses, right? It's
whatever. There's something for everyone.
Yeah.
But I think that Catholicism gives a really good, solid foundation to children, and I would recommend to anyone. Raise your children Catholic.
Oh yeah.
And to make the first confession and the first something so beautiful, especially when they make their first communion.
Yeah.
It's cute.
I do remember my first communion, and it's I remember. So I told this story to my mom in like 2017. It took me 20 years to tell this story, and I'm a very open person. I mean, I talk about my brother's suicide. I talk about meditation. I talk about, I was very, very Catholic up until about 15. Then I was an atheist for like 5 years. Then I was an agnostic for like 5 years, and now I've kind of found my way, not into necessarily strict Roman Catholicism, but some form of...
I'm going to tell you what you've done. You have found the kingdom of God within. Oh. You have found God where he really is. And he's not out there in the cathedral or in the church or anywhere else. He's in here.
That's beautiful. So
that's where it is.
It took 30 years, but I've kind of found my... It actually I had him on 2 days ago, but I had him on a couple months ago as well. Charlie Duke, the 10th man to walk on the moon. He was the youngest man to walk on the moon. He's, I believe, 89 now. Sharp as a tack. You wouldn't know he's 89. If you just listen to him, you'd think he's like 30, right?
Yeah.
But I remember talking to him, and it was... And because he talked about in a lot of his interviews what no one really ever talked about, and it was the kind of crushing nihilism, maybe pointlessness after you come back from the moon, because literally and figuratively, you've climbed the highest rung, right? It's, Air Force pilots, the first to break the sound barrier, the first to break Mach 2, the first to break 100,000 feet altitude. I mean, he went to the moon, and then he came back, and he was like, what else is there to do? Like I'm, I've immortalized my again, literally walking on the moon. You've immortalized your footsteps. There's no atmosphere. But the point is he came back and he worked for NASA for a little longer, kind of helped the preliminary designs of the space shuttle, but was like, this isn't where my heart is. He actually worked for Coors and distributing alcohol. And he's like, but he found, per his words in one of his interviews, he found that he was drinking too much, that he was being a very strict father, a harsh father. He was like, why? He wanted them to be perfect like he was. I mean, you had to be the best of the best of the best to go to the moon, right? And anytime they fell short, it was, he a very bad father. I would get angry with them. And finally, he said he found his faith again. And he even said it. I had him on 2 days ago for the second time. He was kind of laughing when he said it. He goes, it was great walking on the moon, but it doesn't compare with walking with Christ. And I was like, that's beautiful. But so when we spoke 2 months ago, about 3 months ago, I remember emailing him beforehand, and then we talked during it. And I was like, sometimes I'm scared that, what if this podcast takes off? What if I become the next Joe Rogan? What if I get everything I've ever desired? I get all the money, I can do whatever I want. What happens if I do all of that and then it's still empty inside? I was like,
well, here's the deal. You need to manifest that for the good. Look what you could do. If I were talking to you now and you were at that level, you'd say to me, don't worry about Mr. Vin. I'll set him up in a new restaurant.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
So this is the great, when you walk in that light, that's what your life is all about. Giving and helping, and of course you have to have discernment and know exactly what you're doing. But don't put that wall there. Or I'm talking to you. Open it up. Yeah, say, bring it on. I'm going to do wonderful things.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean I do have plans I've spoken about it extensively on this podcast. Of when I do make a ton of money on this podcast, what I want to do is I want to create a sea change in mental health research. That's the footprints I want to leave in this world. Is I want, I've found in my life, like, you can't fix the whole world. Choose something, work towards it, and leave the world a little better than you found it.
Exactly.
You're not going to be able to fix it all. Choose something, right? There's someone out there that they're like, I'm going to invent air conditioning. And they did. And it was like, hey, great. You didn't cure cancer, but hey, you did your little part. You invented air conditioning.
Exactly. Well, it's like me, Virginia Women for Trump. Well, by myself, I can't save this country, but each one of us is that little spark of light, and we put it all together, and it becomes a huge light.
Yeah.
So we can make a difference. We really can. Back to the moon. I once had when I was in Singapore, I had dinner with I sat Pete Conrad at dinner.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm not even unique. You've talked to someone too.
He unfortunately died in a Harley accident in Florida. Yeah, so he died a little too soon.
That's it's excuse me. I lost my train of thought. Change the world, little something.
Yeah. We were talking about changing the world, and you said on the mental health side.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's so kind of with all of that. With I started meditating in 2008, and I did it every day. I stopped for like 2 years after my brother died. I just wasn't in a good headspace. Picked it up again. Been at it ever since, and I love it. It's the best thing about my day. It keeps me grounded. But there was this ironic sort of duality or contradictoriness of where I was pre-med. I was all about scientific materialism and reductionism. It's nothing but cold matter bumping around the universe. There is no God. There's no nothing. And then I would sit down and meditate and have these beautiful experiences of where I went in and I found just indescribable peace, completely sober, indescribable peace, contentness, unity when you're in that moment of where the world disappears. And I talked to Dr. Eben Alexander about this, the Harvard neurosurgeon who wrote the book Proof of Heaven. When you're in that moment, the only thing you can think, at least for me, is like, if everyone experienced this, like, we'd have world peace tomorrow. But then I would come back down and then go right back to scientific materialism. There is no God. It was this very odd irony, right? It'd be so I would do that, and then for years, as I kind of, like I said, slowly found my way back to God through, I would say through Charlie Duke, who really helped me just kind of, he sends me emails all the time about, prayers and kind of how to guide it. And I found that they're not, you don't have to have one or the other. You can have this meditation, mysticism, spirituality, kind of psychedelic vibe, but that can also work with God. And to me, I've woven them together now.
See, that is God.
Yes.
That is God at a higher dimension. And a lot of Christians are afraid of it because they think, that's New Age
that's
stuff.
Hippie, yeah, that's
But you can find a kernel of truth in everything, and a lot of the New Age stuff. Have you ever? Here, we keep diverting. I think we're going to hours.
No. This is my favorite kind of podcast, where it's just you just wind it up and let it run. Who cares what happens?
Okay, can you read this? Have you ever read this book?
You told me about it when we spoke. In
Tune with the Infinite by Ralph Waldo Trine.
I did write it down when we spoke on the phone.
Yes, you got to read this book.
Okay.
And this brings you. This is all Christ-centered, because Christ came. Jesus came to show us the way, the truth, and the life. Mm-hmm. And so there's nothing to be scared of, because when your heart is that closer relationship and understand that at oneness with God. And he told us greater things can we do than he did. And the Father and I are one, and I am one with the Father, and so we're all in this together. So then, so we're up there, we're at one with God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, and hey, let it go. Let it rip. Get whatever you. I wish I had known this 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I had I've always been spiritual, but and for me it's been growth all the way, and I have a long ways to go yet. I'm sure nobody ever really gets there, but to find it at a young age to find that kind of spirituality at a young age is it's very lucky, very, very lucky. And so you see how we've gone from politics to spirituality, because they're intertwined.
They absolutely are.
And if we don't intertwine them, that's where we fall off the cliff. That's why we've had communism in all of these other countries, because the biggest enemy of communism is God.
It absolutely is.
God away, take God away. My house is filled with Chinese antiques because of my background, but many of them are pieces that were they destroyed everything. You can, and then you see happening in this country, they're destroying our monuments, our statues. It's all one and the same.
Yeah, control the past, destroy the past, erase the past.
Destroy the past, then you can reinvent it.
Well, yeah, right. That's that song Rage Against the Machine. Who controls the past now controls the future. Who controls the future now controls the past. Who controls the present now controls the future. But it's all, you control the past, you control the present, you control the future. You say what is.
Yes, but the one thing that encourages me is, there are young people like you, my 20-year-old grandson, and so many. And whenever I go to CPAC, it's filled with young conservative people. This year, it's not here in the DC area where it normally is because of the COVID restrictions. With regard to numbers, it's in Orlando, and I thought, I'll skip it this year. Nobody has the answers that I want to hear, by the end of this month. So I'll skip it. But it's a wonderful thing when you combine both, and I guess that's what conservatism is all about: keeping God in the picture.
You can't separate the two, right? It's I think it was Terence McKenna said our inventions are the condensation of our imagination. So it's like we have these thoughts, and then they condense from these ethereal, I like this idea of a wheel, and then the wheel is in reality. And I think Duncan Trussell said it. He was like, it seems that there is like it's almost like if you took a bowling ball and rolled it down like a muddy hill, it leaves a path, and then what does it also do, though? If you're visualizing it, right, it kind of spits stuff up on either side. Think of a snow plow. It pushes everything to the side. He was like, it seems like there's this force. You could say the snow is time, the force is the snow plow, and it's pushing through time. And what it does is it condenses these things on the side, and that's our reality. And depending on what the force is the force communism? Is the force freedom? Is the force love? Is the force fear? What condenses on the sides are proxies of our side effects or condensations of that driving force. So when the driving force is freedom, natural law, God, it's whatever God it is.
That's that you created.
Yes.
Because we create our reality. And yes, we all, particularly in these 2 weeks, I don't think anyone could not have had some moments when they've felt down and out.
Crisis of faith.
Yeah, but we have to rise up, because if we stay at that level, then that's where we will stay.
Where you will stay.
Your thoughts count, your words count, your actions, and I always say a lot of people pray, oh dear God, please do this, please do this. He's not up there pulling strings.
Yeah.
No. We're his instruments on this earth. He needs us.
You are the string, right? You are the...
Yeah. And so, when we walk with him and with his guidance, then we can have success in whatever it is that we do or we want. But so many, President Trump, I don't think ever in history were so many people praying for him. But who am I? People will say, who does she think she is? But in my opinion, so many were praying the wrong way, because they were praying for, please, God, please do this, please do this. Oh my gosh, I spent so many hours, And I'm thinking, you ask him once, he hears you. Don't annoy him.
Don't be clingy, right? Text him once.
But if you believe everything that we've been taught and everything that we read in Scripture, you don't have to beg him. You don't have to beg, but you have to be his soldier, his warrior, his instrument, whatever you want to call it. You have to be the one that pushes his will forward in this world. That's the best way that I can articulate this.
Yeah, and I love what you said earlier about, instead of being manifesting, saying thank you. A guy I've had on this podcast several times is Dale Comstock, who is the youngest member ever of Delta Force. Is as American as, he's a G.I. Joe. I think he's 57 now. Still could, outperform any 20-year-old. But he's this guy who you would look at, right? And he's a guy who's never smoked pot, clean cut, just, American. I mean, again, G.I. Joe, almost like a Superman, Captain America type figure, right? He's the guy that you'd look at and you'd be like, this isn't a guy that is into meditation or spiritualism, right? He's a very, action creates reward or results. But I remember reading his book, and his book is called American Badass. And it's a nickname he got on a game show. But I remember reading his book before I had him on for the first time in March of last year. He's been on like 50 times since then. But he talked about in his book the importance of meditating on your goals and succeeding in those goals, and how they were not only that, how they were actually taught when being trained to be in Delta Force, to visualize success. And then most importantly, and this is where I want to bring it back to you, is he said that it's a good step to start meditating and visualizing for whatever. I think that's a good first step. But he's like, the step you have to take after that is you don't look at it and say, I want I'm focusing on a bigger podcast. I'm focusing on a bigger Women for Trump. I'm focusing on whatever it is. I'm focusing on a bigger Women for Biden. Whatever it is that your goal is you don't say, I will get that. I will achieve that. He was like, what they were taught, and then what he teaches is to say you already have it, to feel it in the here and now. So when he was training to be like the best shooter, he was like, I didn't think I'm going to be the best shooter. He would imagine that he already is. He was like, imagine what it feels like to get the gold medal. Imagine what it feels like to get the accolades. Imagine the pride in that. And he teaches that. And I always point to him because he's the least mystic, new age person on the planet. And he talks about that. And I thought it was interesting that you brought that up instead of...
Yes, and you always got to, if everything that you are doing and you want to achieve in this world, if it's coming from a God-centered place, if it's coming from goodness, if it's coming from a desire to be a positive force in this world, then that's God's will. So just go for it. Thank you, God. I'm manifesting it right here and now, and I have it, and you visualize it or whatever, and go with it. But I think again, caution, because some people get there and then they abuse it. But that's life.
Yeah, so I was going to say earlier when you talked about the last 2 weeks, kind of a crisis of faith, I thought about what Ram Dass said. He's the dark night of the soul, and it's something, apparently it's one of the steps in Buddhist enlightenment. But he says it's when you start to wake up, and then it seems like all is lost, and what you do is you try to go back to sleep. And he said there's two things. There's the phony holy. That's the holy man that actually isn't holy. And then there's the phony unholy. And that's so the phony holy would be like me saying I'm the best football player ever. And it's like, no, you're not. The phony unholy would be someone like Tom Brady saying I'm not the best quarterback ever. And everyone's like, yeah, you are. He was like, once you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. You can try, and you can get kind of close, but you can't go back to sleep. You can't go, whatever, politics is, maybe that's just not my thing. I'm just going to play video games. He's like, you can never forget what you saw. And to me, that's kind of where I am right now. I watched in real time on November 3rd, I watched the election go one way, literally pause, and then reverse. And part of me has, admittedly, I've pretended to just forget that. I've gone, whatever, Biden's the president, I'm just going to work on my podcast, try to be a better person. But I can't ignore.
You can't ignore it. It's not like it ever was before. We made the analogy with
your guy loses, whatever.
Okay, all right, okay, we're going to survive this. Yeah. We'd have 4 years of him.
take one on the chin and get
then better. We ended up having 8, but wow! Then we had the victory, and then we had this man whom I believe God called, and he answered the call to give up his life, to give up everything. People don't stop and focus on what he gave up, the sacrifice that he has made. And it's done. He has made those sacrifices. His life will never be the same. He can never go back to just being the big celebrity, Donald Trump, with freedom wherever he went. He can never be free again. He can never walk down the street again. He can never walk into a store again. He's got to be surrounded with bodyguards in a big way. Quite honestly, Clinton could walk around anywhere he wants. Nobody cares, But no, this man, has a bullseye on him from now until the end of his life. And he came in and he promised certain things, and he kept his promises to the best of his ability. And he had to deal with all of the lies that were put out there. And when they couldn't talk about anything else, they talked about his hair. Who cares? They talked about the too much time maybe in the tanning salon, or the makeup was wrong, or And what used to, if you travel and you hear and you hear, oh, can't stand him, he's this, blah blah blah. Why?
Why?
And why? Okay, tell me what he said about Mexicans. Oh, he said they're all this. No, actually, I was on a show in Ireland, and it was the premier weekly show, and I said, go back and listen. He said firstly, illegal immigration is illegal. Do you understand the word illegal? Right? We are entitled to have our borders. Secondly, he said, some are murderers, some are racists, and some are good people. All three are correct. What is wrong with that? No. They made, no. He's a racist, he's a this, he's a that. See, they don't listen. They take the soundbite that has been manipulated by the liberal media and woven into the big lie that they repeat over and over and over and over again. And it's almost at the point now where I'm not even sure I can put my foot in Ireland again, because they all think I'm some kind of nutcase, simply because I look at the issues, I study it. I'm not one of us is blind as to the human frailty of anybody else. And who is perfect? I mean, we all thought Romney was perfect. He's the closest that we could ever get to the perfect man. He's a disaster. What would he have done for the country? Who knows?
Yeah.
By now you're beginning to get the drift that I don't like Romney very much.
Yeah. It's right, but there's also the contradictory nature of, like, when Trump put his ban on not Muslim countries, on countries that have hotbeds of terrorism. What no one ever brought up was the list of the countries. I believe it was 7 countries. Mm-hmm. That list was created by the.
Is the biggest, the largest Muslim country in the world. There was no ban against people from Indonesia. It was against people who might hurt our country, protecting us.
Yeah, the list of nations that he did the travel ban against.
Yeah,
was created by the Obama administration State Department.
Exactly.
That never gets brought up.
Yeah. And what he did with China and the balance of trade. I mean, look at the prosperity that we had.
Yeah. Remember when he started banning flights from China in January 2020, and they all said he was a racist?
Yeah.
And he said, no, this is the coronavirus?
Yes.
No one cared. So that's kind of how I look at it. Is it's like, this is the dark night of the soul, where it seems like all is lost. And I don't claim to know how things will get better, but I do believe they will. I don't see any benefit in thinking that it's all shit.
No, we're in we're in a tunnel. We're in that dark tunnel, mm-hmm. But there's a light at the end of it, you know?
There is. And maybe there's a couple turns between now and then, and so we can't see it yet. But it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, my old Irish uncle used to say it's a long road that had no turnings. Now, I don't know if that means anything to anyone other than an Irish person, but I think you get it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Miss Short, let's wrap this episode up. I would love to have you on again.
Sure.
This was super fun. I'll text you after this. I would love to have you on again. Please send me that GoFundMe link for is it Vin?
Yes, I will do that. And $5 if you can afford $5. I think most people can. If we could get the multiple effect going, that would be absolutely tremendous. And I will also then we'll talk about a list of people that would be interesting for you to have, and we'll work on that.
That would be amazing.
And we'll make your podcast great.
Thank you. I'm so excited to, if you can get any of those people, that would be amazing.
I get all of them, yeah.
Don't play with my heart.
Yeah, don't worry. Okay. Don't worry. We'll do it.
Thank you so much for coming on. This is my favorite type of podcast, where we start one way and we go into a trillion different directions. I love that. That's my favorite because it's natural. That's organic. None of this was scripted. None of this was right.
All we're missing is the tea and Irish soda bread, right?
I know, right? Well, maybe next, and then a couple gallons of beer, right? That's the real. They might have to. People would stop listening.
Yeah. I'm probably the only Irish person you'll ever meet who doesn't drink.
I don't drink.
You don't.
No, I was saying that as kind of a joke. No, I don't drink. Yeah.
Don't need it.
Patrick Carrigan.
Tommy, it's been great. It's been great. I look forward to the next time, and we'll stay in close touch.
Yes, please. I'll send you the link when it's up. It'll probably be up tonight or tomorrow morning. I'll send you the link. I'll put the GoFundMe link in. Yeah. I will text you sometime today, and yes, please, let's work on that list of people to come on.
One nation under God.
One nation under God. Yes, ma'am. God bless America. Thank you so much for coming on, Ms. Short. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.